and that you know, just by any sort of objective analysis, these questions are going to come up, and so they basically bounce a ball towards the media, and then the media dribbles it all around, unknowingly being the puppet of the conservatives' spin games and the way that they play with these topics. And it's sad to see politics. I mean, I guess, you know, people would laugh at me because it happens all the time, but it is sad when politics gets so shallow.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, absolutely. It is sad because it can be so much better than that in a democracy, right? That's the nature of our system. We should be participating in our government, right? But all of these games are being played to keep us at a distance, keep us out of the process, keep us uninformed, you know. And the thing is, the way the conservatives play these situations is that they keep it reflects poorly on all politicians, and not all politicians are terrible people. They're not all disingenuous vampires.
Right, but it gives to that argument of you can't trust a politician, and people just lump them all together.
Exactly.
Whether they're good people on their own merit, or whatever party they stand for, or whatever beliefs they hold, you know, it gets lumped together, and then all of a sudden, you know, because Rob Anders is an idiot, somebody's gonna be just as upset with somebody like Charlie Angus.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you hear it all the time. People that are a little bit too lazy to look past the surface of these stories. They're all politicians are the same. They're all liars, and you know what I mean. Oh, they're just all taking our money and wasting it and stuff like that. You know, it's the knee-jerk reaction that is, I guess, a reasonable response for someone who may not have the time to or inclination to get deeply into these matters. On the surface, it's the way it ends up looking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know
if it begins as a starting point for trying to you know, to realize that, yeah, something's wrong. Okay, but you got to go beyond that at some point and be able to distinguish, you know, what is worse, and who does have some merit, and who can be trusted, and when. It's not to say you should trust the government all the time, of course, that'd be ridiculous, but you know, I have something that just came to mind, and I thought I'd throw it by you as far as a conservative strategy here too. What do you think as far as, do you think they chose to raise the carbon tax issue? I mean, I've heard a lot of comments saying that they were able to beat the Liberals with it, so that now they're going to beat the NDP with the carbon tax stick, even if the NDP doesn't have it in their platform.
Yeah, when they
but
get
I wonder, the thing I wonder though is, I wonder if they're also trying to aggravate a disagreement between Liberals and New Democrats and Greens on this issue, because there are differences. I mean, I haven't seen that happen yet, but I wonder if that's an eventual goal here too.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, they divide and conquers in their playbook, you know, and like I said before, they're not likely to stop using something until they've gotten all the mileage they can get out of it. Listen, they're still getting mileage out of the long gun registry, for crying out loud, you know. If they've got an issue that they're winning on, they will ride that as far as they can, you know. And this is, again, the carbon tax is one of them, the long gun's another one of them. They're just going to keep on riding it. The coalition thing is another one of them. You know what I mean? Every time that the seems that the progressives are getting along, bam! It's they scare up the coalition bogeyman.
Exactly. And then of course the situation now, they always the Quebec wedge issue as well, right? The Conservatives don't have a toehold in Quebec, so now they use that to basically get the NDP and the Liberals into disagreements as well.
I would love to do an analysis on exactly what you're touching on right now later in the show, and discuss the Quebec flag incident. You know what I mean?
We should definitely talk about that.
That's for later in the show. That'll be good. But like we were talking a little while ago there about people becoming disillusioned by the political process and with politicians in general, just because of the general nastiness and disingenuousness of the way politicians interact on Parliament Hill. Like, there's no other way to interact with this conservative government. You know what I mean? And it just looks bad on all politicians, like I said. But I mean, yesterday we marked the 1 year anniversary of the Occupy movement, which was basically on an international level, a whole bunch of people say, we had enough of this. We need to take this back for ourselves, you know. You know, and that's the way I see the Occupy movement. It was an attempt to express desire on a massive level that people have of wanting to take democracy back for themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think that the Occupy movement in Canada is different. I mean, the Occupy movement is going to be different in all sorts of different places, as far, you know, as wherever it is geographically and what's happening in the economy. But I think the Occupy movement in Canada has a certain amount of people, like we just talked about, where they're upset with government and they're so angry that they don't want to take part. But on the flip side, there's a large contingent too, where obviously Occupy has an economic focus. But in Canada, I think because we know how dangerous Stephen Harper is to Canada on an economic level as well, that there's a certain amount of people in the Occupy movement who are very political, as far as like looking at Stephen Harper as one of the you know, the front men, the main enemy for the Occupy movement. Where in the States, I think they're so sick of their two-party system that we're looking at getting rid of Harper, and they're looking at completely changing their system as far as politics goes. So I think the Occupy movement in Canada really has to, you know, as much as it's working together and you need to work together, I think that, you know, gives us a great opportunity to talk to these other people who are obviously getting political by taking part in Occupy, but getting them to see that, you know, you can work within the system and still work outside the system as well.
Exactly. And one of the things that really bothered me on the mainstream media's coverage of the 1-year anniversary of the Occupy movement is that they're all pronouncing it dead, it seems. You know?
Which I don't think that's fair at all.
No. Here's the way I look at it. These people in the mainstream media didn't see it coming, didn't even want to pretend to understand what it was about. You know,
first they denied that it was happening, then they made fun of it and ridiculed it, and then finally, when it became too big of a story, they finally started to cover it a little bit better anyways.
Yeah, and then after all of this you know, denial and misinformation they've been responsible for, all of a sudden they're experts on the status of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't understand that. I mean, so I don't think they have the right to pronounce it dead, really.
No.
I mean, just because there's not a whole bunch of people living in tents in strategic locations doesn't mean that all of those people are gone and they no longer think the same things that they did. They don't have the same set of grievances that they did, you know. And
all those connections that were built through that time too, you know. So now I think that the one of the positive aspects of the Occupy model was the cooperation amongst varying issues, and I think that's a way forward, using social media and networking and getting together to support each other. Like, you might not normally, you know, one person's main focus in life might be Palestinian rights, and another person's main focus might be the environment, and another person's main focus might be healthcare. But at some point, all of these issues converge somewhere, and for people to be able to get out and support each other and build these networks, and it just empowers everyone so much more, rather than just being these separate cells and being held apart from each other.
You never know when this whole thing could congeal into some form of direct action once again, you know.
It doesn't take too much.
No, like I said, all the people still exist. They haven't changed their minds. They still have the same grievances. The only difference is that now a lot of people are a lot better educated than they were before too, right? And like you said, the networks may not be perfectly structured and extremely tight and organized into a hierarchy, but the networks exist. So I mean, I would like, you know, the first year of the Occupy movement, I would just like to think about it as an awakening that becomes a tinderbox for the future. You know what I mean?
And of course, you know, I can't think of a specific to point out, but there are certain areas in the world where the Occupy movement has a lot more strength, and it has managed to continue based on a realism on the ground, as far as whether it's like there's still huge actions taking place in South America and in Europe. And it's not to say that it's necessarily exactly the same as the Occupy movement, but it has the same motivation. These people are out for the same reason, and they know now the system's been stripped bare, and it's transparent, and everybody knows to some extent now that we have to make changes. And this is kind of, I guess, the danger is that once you wake up, you can tend to fall back asleep. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happened with the Occupy movement, but that's what we always have to be on guard against. We have to find ways to stay active and dedicate whatever kind of time or energy we can to assisting various movements and their related parties that are willing to interact together to make a stand on various issues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at there's the awakening and then there's the education, I think that the two are very intrinsically tied together. I mean, people may fall asleep again, but they're not going to get stupid.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's, to me, that's the key. People can maybe fall into a little afternoon nap or a little light slumber, you know what I mean? However, they're still there, and they could wake up. On that note, do you want to go to